Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the CLSR. And I'm your host, the counselor. And today we're going to be talking about bullying. And we have to talk about bullying because it seems to be becoming more prevalent out there. The bullying behavior is, according to the statistics, in the last year they were up like 11%. And I want to tell you, we have to nail this down. We got to get to understanding bullying behavior and what's really going on. We know the basics. However, we got to talk about bullying. And I think it's funny, you think people would really understand what bullying is. I think most of us have the general notion of what bullying is. But the problem is some of us don't realize if we're actually being the bullies, if we have bullying behavior. So we need to discuss that, right? You could be a bully and you might not know you're a bully. However, recently I had a client, and oddly enough, he was really, really upset. He was struggling rather because 35-year-old gent, and he was just told by a very close friend of his that he was a bully, right? Like was considered a bully, and he's been struggling with that. So we're talking and communicating and trying to work on these things, but it just happens. Somebody's got to be the bully. You know what I mean? Somebody's doing it out there. So if you're one of them, right? And it seems like everybody got bullied. Most people got bullied some point in their lives, right? If we want to admit it. Not everybody, but there's most people did. A little bit of bullying here and there. So when you're talking about bullying, we're talking about some really unwanted behavior, things that are harmful, you know? You got verbal, you got your psychological, sexual, social, physical, just acts which are committed by usually an individual or a group, and they're just like a perceived threat. And they try to exert their power over people. And that could be it in a nutshell, right? And there are victims from that bullying, right? You all know. Been people out there doing the teasing, name calling, trying to be intimidating, right? Causing some humiliation out there, taunting and teasing, spreading rumors, gossips, right? Lies, and even some of them taking some of your things, your money, right? Threatening physically, right? It's even harass. Some are crossing boundaries, and you might even know them as friends, and it's not appropriate. But they're bullies, and maybe you didn't say something about it. But the point is that there's sexual harassment, physical assault, theft. Bullies get into all of it. Destruction of property. There's just so many things. But the thing is, when you see them, you know who they are. But that's not just it. It's, are you doing anything about it? How many people are actually doing anything about it? Because oddly enough, these bullies get away with a lot, right? Bullies have gotten away with a lot. I guess that's why they're bullies. But I mean, bullies get away with a lot of them, and do a lot of damage. And it's funny because you see how people sit back and some people don't do anything about the bullies, right? You know what I mean? Because the bullies seem kind of crazy. Bullies seem kind of crazy. So a lot of people, that's why they're not doing anything, because they're scared, right? You got to fight for your right. But when it comes to dealing with a bully, right? You got to deal with the bully however you deal with the bully. But you can't keep running anyway. Oh no, I'll tell you for sure, firsthand, you can't keep running. You got to eventually stand your ground. Because no, man, that chase game is deadly. It's tough. And if you ever been through it, you gotta stand your ground. You gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta take care of your business. You gotta get fed up. And that's when the game gets interesting. So all I'm saying to you people is bullying is a very big problem out there. And one of my big problems is there's just too many people who don't understand they have this bullying behavior. So it makes me wonder if they're really aware of some of their, indiscretions, or just some of that behavior out there that's ridiculous. But bullying is very widespread, especially in the school system, the education system, you know, all across the country. It's out there, and I've seen some terrible acts. I've seen some despicable, terrible acts. And my heart goes out to the family where I seen a kid being so badly bullied that he was attacked, even when, you know what I mean, trying to get away and killed. And it was like, wow. It's so terrible, these acts, and it's like it's such a heart wrencher to see kids going through that, especially when it gets to that point. Some of the bully could get right out of control. And the funny thing about it is, I know firsthand that when you're dealing with some of them, even in the elementary grades, you can come across, keep talking to them, trying to discipline them or work with them, and some of them just keep on, man. Their behavior just goes on, and you do what you can, right? But it's a challenge out there. Like, there's no one answer because there's so many things going on. But that bullying behavior, it's paramount, and a lot of people don't stop it because of fear, but it's out there. You know what I mean? And I don't think it's not just fear that they're going to get hurt, fear that they won't be backed up, that nobody's going to help them if they get in a tight situation. See, that's a big one too. And that just tells you that there's a power imbalance. And, right? A serious power imbalance right there. One person over man, because the one person's feeling that they can intimidate and they're doing whatever they want to do. And it comes in many different forms, this form of bullying. But we just have to know it that, there is an imbalance there, right? And usually it could be a big kid, right? They have that physical strength, right? You know what I mean? They could be popular. Even some of those popular people, they try to control and harm when other people know that they're popular and they know that they're being listened to by a few, they get real brave and they can hurt people, right? Harm others with, not even think twice about it. And that's another power imbalance because they're popular, right? And it just changes from time to time, but that person still has a majority of the time where they're bullying and using that power, right? And they usually happen more than once. Bullying behavior, it's a really repetitive. You'll see it happens, in that person's life where they're doing it over and over and over, right? Making threats, spreading rumors, attacking people, verbally. You know what I mean? Excluding people from groups. We know how that goes with some of the bullies, right? This is part of their operanda, as I must say. You know, because I think one thing we have to know is we have to get a solid grasp on the specific types of bullying. There are three main types that we're going to talk about, and we'll get into more details as we talk about. But of course, we all know about the verbal bullying, right? Writing things, teasing, name calling, taunting, inappropriate sexual comments, threatening to cause harm. There's so many things that bullies do, you know, to intimidate others. But that verbal is one that it taunts and teases, it drives you nuts. And if you got to pay attention, it can be rather damaging to some young people, right? It could be really getting to them. And we have to be understanding that that's just a part of it. But over and over, repetitively, that really gets on some of them kids' nerves, right? And it's a challenge. It's why we got to really work on this bullying thing. But then you also got that social bullying, right? Otherwise known as relational bullying, right? Hurting someone's reputation. You know what I mean? Or they're just not understanding, right? So they're purposely trying to isolate people. They're not trying to come together. These are people that they leave people out on purpose, right? They try to isolate and bully other people into, you know what I mean? Their spots, put them into places, right? You know what I mean? Telling people in the group, not to get along or don't be this one's friend or don't. This starts in early ages. Spreading rumors, right? Or even embarrassing people in public. And it's sad because when you see that happening, the person could be so popular, but they're just manipulating their way through that little social scene, even in those early grades. And you can see them putting other kids who may be less fortunate, right, or not as popular, putting them down. And you know that they're just, you know what? For some reason, they hold this certain power over the rest where they get away with this. And of course, it's important to understand that physical bullying is also one that's detrimental. Understanding when you're hurting people physically, right? Hitting, kicking, punching, spitting, pushing, you know what I mean? Breaking things, you know, just going all out. gestures, nasty gestures, right? Tripping, pushing people, like, oh yeah, or faking. You know those ones that'll fake like they're gonna hit you, but they don't hit you. That's a form of intimidation, right? And it happens, and you see a lot of us, most of us know about that for sure. When we see it, we know who's doing what. And it, like I said earlier, it's surprising that some of them get away with it as long as they do. But it's important that we have people working with the youth to try to stop that. You know what I mean? But it's going to happen in one way or another, right? And some people will actually be sitting at home saying to themselves, "I've never been bullied before," right? However, there are a number of people out there, and that's why we're talking today, because we got to get to those people to get them to know that yes, we do understand. We sympathize, empathize with you too, because we want to get to understand this thing better. And we have to understand, why does bullying matter? Right? It's an issue in our educational system. It's a matter of health and safety. Like, you see what kids are doing once they're going through these changes, right? It's happening on the school grounds. During the school, a lot of it's going on. It can happen in the workplace, right? However, you got to have these kids connected with staff, people who can be in charge and take some responsibility to work on it, right? Because some of the effects of bullying, right, is just too much sometimes for some of these kids to take. It really puts them in a place of danger. And that's how they look at it. They feel emotionally distressed. And it could be a real breakdown. And next thing you know, these young people are going for substance abuse, right? They're engaging in that. They're just lost. They end up missing school or missing their work. And you know what? It could get as deep as what we all fear, that suicide, where they get so into themselves, you know what I mean, that they can't see no way out. There is no way out for them. They've got no choice. They don't feel they have a choice. So there's only one way for them. And listen, this is where we go, yeah, a lot of people are scared to talk about it. It happens, but you don't want to talk about it, but it's real. And what you try to do is understand that we've all seen, there's been cases out there where kids have been pushed to the edge, right? Through all these different types of bullying that I was talking about. Using different tools, mind you, like the internet, like, right? Like that internet bullying, right? That's a good one too. They use that social media, you know what I mean? Getting and picking. See, and the thing about it, why it's so bad, even it increases the chance of bullying, because that message that goes through the internet is instantaneous. So if somebody's being bullied, or right, and someone's want to hit them with messages, they can hit them all day long. Imagine what that's going to do to a young mind when they're being bombarded with these negative messages, even through the internet. That's a lot for them. However, it's different for different children. Some will just turn off the phone and that's it, get rid of it. But some don't. That's their life. I don't know. But it's not just that. It's the fact that somebody's coming after them and giving them a hard time, right? And then it gets to be too much. So that's why that's what can happen when it comes to bullying. And that's some of our greatest fear. And there's a lot of things that happen in between some of these things I just mentioned. But the point is, there's nothing good that comes from it. All we have to do is try to figure out, even in our school system, how can we work on preventing a lot of it. It has to be a subject that we talk about. How do we go about doing this, right? We have to have a prevention strategy. We got to do something and create some laws where we can get, you know what I mean, some people trained, and even help with train some of the kids on how to respond. Like, it's just an educational thing too, right? Information is the key. But we can't just think of bullying just in the elementary grades or the school system. We have to think about the bullying that exists within our lives, identifying the true bullies. And that means, are you willing to take a look at yourself? Do you have any bullying behaviors? Right? Think. So, how do you know you're not a bully? Well, there are a few ways you could look at this thing. You know, think about it. There are a couple things that you might consider, especially if you are always upsetting people around you. They're always upset with you for one reason or another, right? And then you notice people get angry at you a lot, right? Or they're making comments or complaining about, your behavior, you know. This is an indication that you may be a bully. Or possibly you may not show some empathy at all, right? You lack that empathy quality. You know what I mean? You have to ask some people within your immediate environment, do you lack that empathy? Do you appear to be someone who shows empathy? Talk to your friends. Say, listen, what kind of, and look for some honest feedback, right? Ask those real questions. Those are what you call courageous conversations, right? And you also know you could be a bully if you get a little bit too aggressive here and there, always shouting or threatening or humiliating. Do you do any of these things, right? Not I shout when. If you're shouting all the time for one reason or another, there's maybe some bully in you, right? Because you're not communicating the most effective way, right? You could be passive aggressive. You could be one of those people that goes around exerting your aggression and putting it on people, right? And you might not realize how much intimidating you may be doing, right? And what if you're the person too that thrives around people who are more insecure than you, right? They make you feel better, right? Because you understand that they're lacking some security. So because they lack that, maybe you latch on and make yourself feel even better, right? This is a sign that you could be a bully as well, you know? Like picking on people. Do you pick on people deliberately? Setting them up to fail you. Did you call someone in school names? Did you have names for people and utilize them on them and use them as a dirty weapon under the guise of, I'm just kidding, right? Was it one of those things that you felt that you were doing? Maybe. Think about it. Sometimes these people get called names and they don't like it, but they don't say anything because maybe you are too intimidating. Who knows, right? People do thrive off insecure people, right? And if you're into spreading lies or just, talking to colleagues about other people, you know what I mean? It's really not really that productive, right? And you know that if the other person heard or something what you were saying, right, they would be upset. You knew that, right? And it just, it wouldn't be good. But if you feel you got to talk too much in corners and whisper about other people, then you could be that bully that you don't even look at, right? Rarely do we look at ourselves to tell ourselves the truth, right? But we are trying, but sometimes we're using that power in our position. You know what I mean? You do. Some people, they love being in that powerful position and they like to exert that power. They don't really connect power with the position. You understand on how that's not just the power is not exerting excessive power on people to get them what to do. The power is to empower, right? That's what people get twisted with, right? Empower, not just powering down on people and keeping them down. No way. That's not how it's working, not successfully anyways, but people do it, right? They use their positions and they put, you know what I mean? And they give it to people. And people look at them and they cross their eyes and they're just biting their tongues. And, oh, yeah, some people do that. And they know they can exert this power. And they love to. And there could be many reasons that they're doing it. They could be doing it because maybe when they were younger, they didn't have the power in the playground. So then when they got an opportunity, maybe they exerted that power. Or which I really think is the case in most situations, is that they were born bullied and they got older, they stayed bullied because they didn't get stopped. So that seems more like the common theme, right? Like it's consistent throughout. Like a lot of bullies I knew growing up, they didn't really change on, you know what I mean, from water to wine. No, no, a lot of them stayed the same. So that's what you got to consider, right? Bullies will, what you see is what you get in most cases, right? Rarely does it go in the positive. And those are the ones too, a lot of the times they get in positions and you know what, they just grow, and there's a lot of negative that's associated with it too, right? Sometimes, especially not bullying stuff, when it comes to um relationships, right? It gets hard sometimes for them to form real relationships. But that's the way it is. But are you that type of person that's hard to get along with? Do you use your position of power to get on people? Maybe you think it's part of the job. Sure, you're an influencer, right? But how are you using it? Maybe you're not. Maybe, and this is how you could think about it. You could think, well, how well do I get along with people at my work, right? Do I get along with most people, or do I only get along with one person? You think real hard on that one and be honest with yourself, right? Be as honest. The more honest you are with yourself, the better the results will be, right? Then for change. The less honest you are, you're not willing to change. You like who you are, and you're going to continue with this bad, corrupt behavior. However, we do need to know that despite schools being places of bullies, workplaces are very, 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 very common places for people to be doing bullying. And there are certain things that you're going to need to know. And we're going to have to talk about when you deal with workplace bullying, because a lot of people take it, they put up with it because they think that they have to put up with it, or because management might have done a little complaint and then tended to the person and the person was spoken to, but then the person just keeps on doing it, right? Because rarely does it just go away. But you need to know one thing, that there's rights, and it's so important to know your rights. And when you're talking about some workplace bullying, there's sexual harassment, there's all kinds of things that violate the law. So know your basic rights. Go on the internet if you have to, but know that you have rights. So make sure you become familiar with your rights. That's the basics that you want to know, because these are steps that you're going to have to take to help yourself when you're dealing with some workplace bullying. And you got to make sure that you in your workplace, you're going to have to step up a little bit and make sure that you protected yourself, and demand, that you get some policies in place for anti-harassment that could be occurring, or a little bit of training, even if it's a couple people a year to get some training. You know what I mean? That they could train other people at the workplace. Just doing something productive like that. Just make sure you encourage other employees to support you. But either way, you have to demand that there's something in place, some anti harassment training, especially in the workplace today, because people don't like to talk about it. They like to hide, right? So you got to also remember, too, that you are not alone when it comes to this workplace harassment, and you don't have to be alone. And there are organizations out there that you can connect with, so that one, you could familiar yourself with some new friends and faces, but two, you could get around some people that are understanding and they can relate to what you're going through, right? To empower you and give support. And then you can give some support too, right? You could learn that this is a process. This is the way it is, especially if you're going in and out, of your workplace feeling unsafe. The best thing you could do is give yourself, and you don't have to wait till after, but if you can get, you know, something going with either other organizations that might have some anti, anti-bullying training or something, just make some connects out there. Take some chances when it comes to that, because it's better to get some support or something in place, because workplaces are seriously a really terrible place, and there's a lot of things going on that it's not spoken about in the regular public eye, and people are afraid. A lot of people are afraid even today more than they were even 10, 15 years ago, of losing their jobs, being unable to support themselves, so they put up with a lot. So this has to be understood. Times are changing, and now look at this new pandemic. Things could even be worse, right? The jobs that are going back, not everyone's going back, and the ones that are going back, who are called back, could be experiencing some of this workplace bullying and harassment going on. And then they might feel that, hey, I'm kind of the chosen ones to come back. I'm a good worker, but it's not a safe place for me. And then knowing that they don't want to lose this job, because people's families are being affected, so maybe you don't want your family affected. You got to provide for them, so you keep your job and you put up with it. It's happening, people out there. So things have to be put in place, but people have to step up and do something about it. You got to get people together and say it's not acceptable, right? I think we've come that far in society where people have to stick together, right? In those workplaces. If you're in that workplace, you should be getting it all in your head that we should be supporting each other and nobody should be feeling rogue. And if somebody's a little acting out, then we're all aware of it. You know what I mean? Not working in isolation. So you got to get and give some support and be clear about it and understand it's needed, right? And hey, if you even have to go, and you might have to take a step, because let's be honest, a lot of the workplace environments, people are in there, they become, I don't know, it's almost like they're just afraid to change. They're afraid of change. They love things that are static, the way that it exists. They're not ready for the change. The change that's needed to go has been stalled because there's a lot of people that are not willing to bend or break, right? You know what I mean? And go that extra mile to make things happen. Because remember that this is the next generation coming up. But in the workplace, people like it, they like it the way it is. They don't like people messing around too much. But sometimes you got to shake it up. And sometimes if they don't listen or follow, even the supervisors, right? What's the cost of your safety? You can't put a price on no safety or you even feeling safe. There's no sense to it. This is your life. You need to respect yourself and work on things. So even if the immediate supervisor, and they'll tell you to, these supervisors, they'll tell you certain things, right, that you won't agree with, and they'll feel that you can't think for yourself, and then you just listen to them when you know your rights. And there's times you just got to get some advocacy going on. And if you can't, you got to speak up and go beyond now and go up to your elected officials, right? Right? You got to. You got to file a complaint. You got to do it. You know what I'm saying? You have to learn. This is a really determined person, but if you're very serious about it and it's important, I'm more than sure a lot of people will step up and realize it is important, But there's got to be some risk takers out there, right? There is. So when you're in the workplace and you're dealing with it, it could be the person who's your immediate supervisor that is doing the bullying and harassing, right? And people are going to be afraid that there's consequences if they go beyond that person, right? Because they're afraid that it might get kicked back down and nothing's really done, or the person's talked about, because rarely is it going to be your boss's supervisor, right? You're complaining to your boss's supervisor, and then your boss's supervisor's got to tell your boss. And right there's a lot of people that are petrified because they're like, that person, what's really going to happen? They're not going to fire them. They're probably going to give them a warning. If they give them a warning, that person comes back to their position. And once they're in that position, they're giving you hell. And people are afraid of that. They see that's 3 steps ahead, right? People know these things and they can sense these things, right? Human beings can perceive that this is and they just react, or they don't react and they don't do anything about it and they got to deal with it, right? So one thing I recommend is, you know, Go where you got to go to get it done, but make sure you know it's important to get to know some of your coworkers, right? Working in isolation is not good for anyone, but get to know some of your coworkers, right? Hey, join a workers' right organization if you have to, or the union, something like something that where you belong and you can participate, and people can understand where you're coming from, and you can come up with strategies and discuss situations as they arise. You don't necessarily have to be the leader, you know what I mean? However, your commitment, right, and your seriousness will say volumes. That's the truth, right? So, however, and this is one of the hard thing for a lot of people, um, being able to speak up based on their race, their gender, right? That's intimidating for a lot of people in a lot of workplaces. They don't feel it's people's personal business, but sometimes they get caught up in where they feel that it's not something people want to hear about, right? It's almost like that's you, not me in some of these work environments where people don't understand, right? They go with the standard, the norm, the traditional way of thinking. And that could be a real threat to a lot of people, right? If you identify as whatever, okay, you should be still respected. But there are people that, by them not even being able to talk on their level, if they're not free to do and be who they got to be, then, you know what I mean? That right there is like a form of bullying, right? Because it's like a tradition. So not saying nothing sometimes is just as bad, right, as judging. Sometimes you gotta let people be who they gotta be and respect people, right? But let them have their voice and speak out if you see things too. That's one thing too. Like, have some, and there are people who will. But if you're not that person, you might have to learn to speak out what you see is not right. If it's not right, you have to speak up. And are there going to be consequences? Sometimes there will. Sometimes there will. And you have to weigh those up. And people do. And a lot of times they don't do nothing. And then some of the times they do step up, for sure. But that's the individual. But I think it's important that we get messages right now that we should think about these things. If things are going on. And how are we behaving? How are we responding to certain situations? Right? You want to make sure that you are in a work environment where you are treated equitably. And I say that equitably. They used to call it fair, but that little term there got everybody spooked. I don't know. We just couldn't deal with it anymore. One person thought this was fair. Anyways, the word became a danger, so we switched it to equity. But that being said, we need to understand that people need to get what they need. Not the same, but what they need. But respect should always be the same. But different needs are different meant for, and different exceptions are different for different people. And that has to be understanding. That's why we use equity. People need to understand, right? We all want to be treated with respect, period. And acknowledged and recognized and appreciated as individuals. We can do that, man. We can do a lot. But for some reason, we have a hard time do that, right? A lot of us have a hard time getting along. As diverse as the world is, right? And all the different people around the world, all shapes and sizes. And there's just some people that just got to be, you know, acting like they're the best. And it's not really one per se that's just doing that. There's a number of them that are doing that. But my point is that whoever's doing it, right? For what? We're all going to the same place in the dirt in the end. So some of them are just going off. I don't know. Like, nothing lasts forever. That's all I'm saying. The one thing we should have for each other is dignity and respect. And hey, we look different. Too bad. We're all human beings, but somehow this crazy world, people don't understand that, right? So that right there is where you do yourself a favor, and you don't need anybody above you, no management, no supervisor to tell you common respect, right? Give it to me. But respect will not be recognized if there's no policy and procedures in place, right? So we got to make sure we have certain things to protect all people. Clear languages for all people to understand what is, acceptable and what's not. That's important too, right? Because a lot of people don't know their human rights until they get into problems. But setting something up and making sure the workplace has it. And the thing is, you might go where they have it and nobody's adhering to it. That's a problem. That's why I said you gotta yell, you gotta scream, you gotta unite, and you gotta move past it. You know what I mean? Or really get out of it if it's that bad. Don't try. I know it's not easy to say or do, but it's easier to say to do. But you want to tell people get out if it's too much. But a lot of people say it's not that easy, but it's never easy. But sometimes you gotta weigh your sanity, right? Like it's crazy. It's sad that people would have to, but I'm saying in certain cases, hey, you know, if you can find a way out, it's better to plan a way out. I didn't say run out. I'm like, if you can find a way out, plan a way out, and get some counseling too while you're going through this, because that's heavy to deal with. You know, pull out all the stops if you have to. When you're going through that. And that's sad because for years, generations, people, even women who were in workplaces who were really being harassed, were screaming out loud and it wasn't being heard. So they had to unite on, and that, hey, I don't know, it still scares a lot of these people out there for some reason. Where they get into these subcultures and they start acting all crazy, and because a woman told them that, like, it gets crazy. And I'm just saying that, hey, we got to respect everyone and give them their dues, right? That's what we should do. So I'm just saying to you, if you have to get it together and bring it together, that's what you do to work it out. You know what I mean? Unite. That's going to help in a lot of situations, and that takes some risk taking. And hopefully, someone's up to that challenge. And we've talked about bullies in the workplace, but what about that family bully? That one that's right in front of your face. That one that may be looking you in the mirror. Right? What's going on inside that home? Right? How do you deal with the family bully? Because families can have a bully in there. I'm not just talking about the loudest one, maybe the most intimidating one, right? But hey, it happens sometimes in families, right? The adult bully never learned how to relate in a healthy, productive way, right? So they want to what? Constantly manipulate and control the situations. And if you're in the situation when you have a bully in the family, there are certain things that you better consider. And one thing is, you have to learn to get your behavior in check. You got to make sure that you are a cool one. Because what happens is when you try to work and deal with the family bully, you're going to have to learn some common techniques. Because there is no sense. That bully's going to as soon as you try to address that bully's going to get angry. And then if you're not cool, you're going to get angry. And the situation is going to be out of control. And it'll just be back and forth. And it'll be headbanging. And there will be nothing productive going on. So you're going to have to learn to avoid getting emotional, right? You're going to have to restrain yourself, remain calm, and do not act out or get angry out of frustration, right? There is no way you're going to be able to work with this bully, right? If you can't control yourself, because you're not going to be able to pull yourself back. You're going to get so indulged that it's called the buy-in. As soon as they go off, you start buying it, and you're just trading jab for jab, comment for comment, right? No, you got to learn. You got to remain calm and try to disengage from anti-interaction with that person, right? So you have to have a specific frame of mind. And it has to be you coming from a place of total understanding that you're dealing with a reactive person, right? And you don't want to get too emotional, right? So if you're going to try to work with this, you're going to have to be patient. You're going to have to be oriented, right? Work oriented, because when it comes to these incidents that are going down, you're going to have to write down some details: time, date, place, and what happened, right? Identify this bully, what's going on there. Like, this is how you got to work with it. You're going to have to do like a chart if you want to get control of this bullying situation, if you, so that you can narrow down what's really going on. You're going to have to get some useful information down, right? And learn to avoid these altercations, right, with understanding. And really, you're going to have to try to find somebody that you can trust out there to share this information that you've gathered so that you could look at it from a different lens, not just your own. Like, go and find yourself like a trusted friend, right? Even if it's a professional, I always go there, right? But if it's a trusted friend, just get one of your trusted. Go find a trusted friend. That I was thinking about that. No, get a trusted friend that you know, right? And talk to them. Try not to get into all the bad, negative things about the person and get into the gossiping. No, just tell them you're looking for some support, right? Especially when these incidents may be occurring. So you want to be able to turn to someone that you trust, that you can depend on, because some of these incidents could be a little bit much. And if you're trying to stop it, it might be good where you can bounce some ideas and information off someone you trust. But the truth is, you're going to have to make a choice, right? You're going to have to decide how you are going to react, right? Are you going to keep going back and forth? Are you going to ignore, right? You don't give that bully what they want by reacting negatively, right? Being in an over emotional state. You don't want to do that. You want to try to be respectful and maintain your composure and be a listener and observer for a bit, right? Take in some information, right? You don't want to reflect like what they're doing. You want to try everything that you possibly can to maintain your dignity and be able to respond accordingly and appropriately without, and when you see like, and you learn to be a good observer and a listener, then you start to see where you can go in and start slowly building rapport and you know what, working on this with this person, right? Helping them understand and see what you're seeing, right? And don't buy in and just keep on it, work on it. And you got to also make sure you establish some boundaries, right? Especially when it comes to a family bully. You have to have your boundaries set, right? You got to make sure, like, if you're doing something in the family, right? I don't know, you make cakes, whatever, and your person that you're dealing with in your relationship, every time you make a cake, they got something negative to say, right? And you know, you got to make it clear. Listen, you know what? I notice that every time that I'm doing this, I'm getting negative. Like, you don't set your boundaries, right? Make sure you're clear on what you appreciate and what you don't. Set some rules. Make yourself clear and stick to the rules, right? There's no put downs when I make food. I'm here making food for you and the family, whatever, right? Or when you're doing work, right? Or that vice versa. You just have to have respect for yourself, set some boundaries, right? Put some rules in that everyone's aware of, they're made clear, right? And everyone's very aware of them, right? And if you're going to deal with the family bully, you have to be a little bit assertive, right? You have to learn to stand up for yourself. This can be next to impossible for some people to do. They struggle with it. It's not who they are, it's not probably who they've ever been. And it's going to be a real challenge for them. Me just saying to be assertive scares the heck out of some people, if you're being honest. They would rather avoid confrontation, right? but it's not confrontational. It's really being assertive. What I would like you to understand is that you are straight up honest, how you feel, without acting aggressively or engaging in any name calling, or or being a bully yourself, like going back at them and saying some things to hurt. No, it means just be honest and straight up, and use I statements. Because the moment you start pointing a finger, you can still be assertive and get your point. And that means assert yourself, stand up for yourself. You don't have to yell and scream and get out of control, but you can get your message clear. It's hard for a lot of family bullies to hear it too. I know. A lot of times they just shut you down, right? I didn't say it was going to be easy. I'm telling you, you just have to try to be pre- prepared, really prepared, right? You want to prepare as much as you can and tell yourself that, you know what, I'm not being unrealistic or too sensitive. This is just how I feel, right? Because sometimes that bully will make you try to feel that by saying those things. You know, you know, you're not talking about me. You're talking about you, and then you know what? There you go again. It's a breakdown. No, you have to be somewhat assertive, and you have to have confidence in yourself. You don't need to argue, but you got to know, and you got to believe in yourself and trust in yourself, that you know what's good for you, that what's right, and most importantly, remain confident. Right? Do it, because the bullies out there, they find it hard to control people who are confident. Do you understand? They try to manipulate all kinds of people, but they prey on the vulnerable. You could be vulnerable or going through something, and they just manipulate it. So you try to remain confident, right? Set your boundaries, assert yourself, stay strong as you can, but respect yourself above all else. The bully's pressures you'll be able to deal with if you learned certain things. Yes, there's consequences, but you're going to have to stand up for yourself and get some people involved if you have to help you, support you. But whatever you do, you know, understand that these bullies, these family bullies, they take a lot of energy. And you know what? It's sad to see, but a lot of people in the family, they'll be on alert, right? Looking out for when that bully's coming around. And that's draining on people, right? So when you do have to take time to deal with the bully or family bully and work through it, it's going to take a lot of energy. And you got to know that. You have to also understand that you're going to need your breaks. You got to make sure that you got something, that meditation, something that you do that can keep you calm, get to know yourself, so that you're aware of things where you could take breaks, take your time to, recharge yourself. You're going to have to do that, right? Because it takes a toll on your physical and your emotional health, right? That's why I always recommend counselors, because you can do it, but you will do it successfully with some support, right? You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you might have to get away from that family bully. It's almost impossible for a lot of people. But give yourself a little break from that bully so you can get some perspective. Because sometimes when we're under pressure a lot, it's too much for a lot of people, right? So you got to take time to pace yourself. Realize this is something real, right? You got to understand that these are things that it's common. It happens that there's somebody in there, that household bullying, or someone being bullied. Well, you got to do what you have to do, but I often recommend that people do get some professional assistance if it gets a little bit much and they want to be able to work through it and get some support, right? Because it's something that could be a little bit overwhelming, challenging a bully. I rarely suggest people try it on their own, because that's when things can really be challenging, when we are on our own. Like if you have a controlling friend, a friend that's actually somewhat of a bully, well, how do you know? What are some of the things that they're doing that is giving you the indication that you may be dealing with a bully, right? Why are you in this relationship? Is this a healthy relationship? Do you find that you're doing too much in a relationship, right? Whereas your friendship is always on the brink of just, see, this is where a lot of young people, they have some real challenges, right? Because of their need, and it's necessary to be in relationships and want to be in relationships, and other people understand that and they use that as their weapon and puts people down. And so some of these are, some of these are the young people that are putting up with a lot, and they might be behaving otherwise in other situations not similar to this one, right? Because they feel they need that friend, and their friend may be a bully. So how do you know if your friend is somewhat of a bully? Well, one of the things is if you have those friends that are like, they're very controlling, and they know what they're doing, and they're always being presented as individuals who are always demanding things from you, right? They expect you to put your life to the side while you cater to them. This is controlling behavior, right? And when they do spend time with you, they demand all your free time with them. They take up a lot of your time, right? They try to control some people, what they even wear, right? Or programs that, those friends. Oh, if you wanted to go into this sport, they convince you to go into the similar sport. Oh, let's go into it together. So they're always trying to be in control. You might have wanted to get into maybe volleyball, and then this person wants to get into track. So they want to control you by bringing you into track, even though you would have rather gone into volleyball. Things like that. That situation. That's at being very demanding and controlling behavior. It becomes a part of that relationship. And a lot of people think we shed it when we get older, but it's more obvious when they're younger. But it's surprising what people are doing as adults. You think it would be easier, but it's not necessarily easier because when they get older, right, they only have a few friends as it is, and then they're afraid to lose those friends because they're getting older. See, it's a double edged sword. But friends who are demanding, that could be a challenge dealing with them, and we all know. But sometimes people get tired of it, right? And those people usually, they either get ignored as they get older and they chill out, hopefully, but really it gets bad in the early ages and early stages of someone's life. That being demanding and very obvious, and sometimes it even gets into the relationships where you have a demanding person, and some people really like that, but most people find it a real turnoff, and it's very controlling, and it's sad because it's somebody who is having some real issues, right, in their life. And his controlling behavior is not good. It's unhealthy for any friendship, this behavior, right? Friends are supposed to respect each other. However, this could be a challenge for some people, right? This is how they do it. Controlling friends, you know? And those ones who are controlling sometimes accuse you. It's sad, but they do. They'll accuse you of not being a good friend if you don't do what they want, right? It's like a guilt trip. I don't know, but it's happening out there. It's very common, right? If you're not doing what they want. Because clearly, these people, if your friend is also clearly showing you a lack of respect, right? If they make fun of you all the time, and there's people we talked about that too, right? All that teasing or joking, or they sarcastic and they use those jokes or hide behind the jokes at your expense, right? And they accuse you of being a selfish one, right? You know what I mean? And even some of the ideas that you may have doesn't really resonate with them. They're not considering what you want. Not at all. Matter of fact, this could be some of the ones that think they're superior than you. They're the entitled. We've talked about the entitled, right? When these people expect or demand special treatment, right? They have to have certain things. Those people get on your last nerve, but they use this as a control. Oh, no, 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 I can't accept that. Oh, I'd never eat that. Or this is not what I eat. Like, those people who act superior and entitled. They use that sarcasm when they're speaking with you, right? they're always right, or they're the smarter one, or trying to give everybody the impression that they're, entitled to everything. These are controlling friends. They talk down to you, they're condescending, they're rude, of course, and they tell you that your opinions are maybe stupid and they don't make sense. You know, that's not how it should be, obviously, in a relationship, but you get people that do that. They actually say these things, and sometimes people are taken aback. They're like, why is this person talking to me? It empowers some of them, right? They feel different. They feel that that is how they're getting the kicks. You see, the funny thing about when your friends talk down to you, it's really a delicate situation because you want to address them, but first of all, that's a slippery slope because you're like, well, I want to have the relationship, but then I don't want them to talk down to me. Right? So what do I do? And some people get right upset, and there's people that don't react at all. They feel trapped, that they can't really do anything. So they put up with it, right? And see those friends that even create a lot of drama. Those people who create a lot of drama. They like to argue just for argument's sake, right? So if you say yes, they say no, right? And even every once in a while, they'll do something kooky to get other people's attention. Just drama. They call them drama queens or whatever. The point is these people are always being extra. That is so irritating, right? Especially the emotional outbursts. It's like, once people see that, it's like, oh, those people are so sickly. But they're like you don't, when you're looking at it, you're just like, you don't really think why this person's going into that. But then when you really stop and think about it, you go, oh, that person's really needy. They're trying to get their needs met. Like, why are they popping off like that? But they're just doing it. They're creating all this drama. You know what I mean? And it's getting all this attention, and you're just like, oh my goodness, these people, um, no, they're going off and they're exhausting. So they even get into the rumor spreading, all that gossip. They're always a part. This person is always a part of some circle with some rumor. They're either a part of it, or they said something, or something was misconstrued. But these ones that create that drama, it's just, you know what I mean? It's just a bad friendship. And if you have one that's doing that, you know what I'm saying? uh, Creating drama all the time. A lot of times they're using it to control you to get your attention. You know what I mean? And it's really bad. It's a manipulation. Think about it, right? It's just sad. And even ones who are being manipulative, right? They use their, the fears and, their values, and they use your compassion, right, to control you in a situation, right? They make you feel guilty in order to get you to do what they want, right? Like, oh, I did this for you, and you could do this for me, and it's always something. It's tit for tat. I call it the tit for tat syndrome, right? Tit for tat. They're always titting for tat, and they're messing with your mind, right? It's always some for the. It's not really genuine. They're just manipulating. You know what I mean? And you walk away with that feeling like this person's such a manipulator. However, there are people that put up with it, right? You know what I'm saying? And they even have a tendency to use their generosity and compassion to take advantage of you, right? That's what they try to do, right? They try to take every situation and flip it on its head, right? Like, you're being nice to them, and as nice as, and you're always trying to be generous, and you're always trying to be nice with them, and they got, like, if they're not feeling good about themselves, right? You're still trying to be the good friend, and you're still trying to accommodate and taking them out. And these people are the ones that, oh, they just take advantage of it. And then they have a tendency to flip the script. They go into this act like, oh, poor me. This is what's going on with me in my life. And then they're just looking for all this deep attention. And you're going, what is going on here? And then next thing you know, they go into the accusations. They become accusatory, right? And then they start putting you down and making comments at you. And right there, you're just like so caught off guard that what just happened here? Is this a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde situation that I got going on? Well, I'm not really qualified to deal with it. So your mind's blown, right? You're thinking to yourself, like, where am I right now? Is this person real or what's going on? That person is manipulating you. And it's a show that they put on. And see, it could wear out friendships. And sometimes that's just how they do it, right? They go through some friendships. They know they're doing it, but they use this manipulation. And if you get caught up in it, it's not a good thing. You could sense it. And some people takes a long time before they wake up out of that spell. But they use your generosity, which soon as you're being good to them, they take advantage. Because you did. You went too far. You gave too much, right? You didn't set your standards, your rules. You allowed them to feel that they could have whatever they want and they could say whatever they want. So that first time that they say something that crosses you, right, that you don't like, you let it go. And see, that's your first mistake. And you know that, right? Because you're like, wait, it catches you off guard. They say something sarcastic. You're being nice. You're getting along. They say something rude, and it catches you, but you're just like, nah, like, what's going on? That was a test. That's what they did. They put the test on you. They did a little test to say, oh, let me see how much manipulating I can do up in this bad boy right here. So they throw something. Oh, I'm just kidding. Some of them are that obvious. And you're just like saying to yourself, wow, what manipulation is going on here? So now I let that go because I'm trying to be a good friend. You took advantage of my generosity. And the thing about it is, as soon as you pop, which you don't usually pop, people look at you like you're crazy because you're trying to address that situation, trying to deal with this person that is in your ear carrying on and acting like you weren't doing them a favor by being cool and being their friend. Well, meanwhile, you were being more than cool, but they took advantage. See, that is pure manipulation. And the one thing you have to also watch out for is this other form of control. You know this form of control, lovey dovey, gotta be with you all the time, need that time and attention 24/7. Who's that? Well, that's a person that's isolating you from everybody that you know, right? They're spending all this time occupying your time, making sure they're all yours and you're all theirs. Do you understand? They are isolating you. They have intention to isolate you, right? So they're controlling people. They attempt to control you. Do you understand? And they attempt to control your friends, who you hang around. And a lot of times that's by keeping you away from them, keeping you occupied, right? So it gets to the point, and you all been there at some point where you had that friend that always wants to do this and that, and then you go because you liked it a few times, and then after a few times you don't really like it anymore, and you're just going to be their good friend, right? However, they ask you the 11th time, and you're just like, I'm over it. I had fun, but I got to move on, right? And so when you do say that, they don't understand, and guess what? They lose it. They come up with some foolishness, and you feel the guilt trip, right? And see, that's all they did. That's management by guilt, right? That's all they did. They went through all that just to get you to feel that way, right? And then it just keeps isolating you, right? And you fall for it a lot of the times, right? And you know what's going on, but you still, for some reason, you feel bad for the person that they got to go through all that to get you into that. That's how desperate. See, you can be smart as you want to be to see that and still go, you know what, at the end, I see where they're coming from. If this person wants to be my friend that bad, I'm going to let him be. And that's what you do. You hang with them. A lot of you do that, right? And that person's isolated you, playing you like the best friend. But see, what you don't see is the storm that's around the corner. Because what happens is this person isolates you from every friend that you had or family member and just occupying your time, right? And then when the day comes where you really want to go off on your own, right? That person, right? They just set you up so bad you don't have no relations with anybody because you've spent all your time, right? Or if that person, and this is what is even scarier for a lot of people, if the person who's been isolating you and controlling you decides, Oh, I just got a new friend. I'm tired of manipulating you and controlling you. I gotta get, you're boring now. I don't want to be around you. So what do? You're their sucker. And so they've used you up, right? They had their intention. It was fun. You were interesting. They played with your mind for a while, isolated you. You fell for it. And then they move on to the next friend. And then what happens is you go into zombie zone. And zombie zone is where you get into that phase where you're like, I can't believe that happened to me, right? And you're so hurt. And some people actually take it so deep that they off themselves. It's sad. It's scary. They off themselves because they got so mentally in touch with this person. And this is how deep we could be as human beings. If we could commit to someone, right? And we can really give our all, and that person buys in, whether you're playing it, this is what separates from that wild one that's running around. But we are the animals that have that feeling that when we get so entrenched and deep into somebody, if we buy in 100%, it's dangerous, right? And see, this is why you got to be careful, because this is what could happen. People get so caught up that they feel that that person's their life, right? And then when that person goes down to those depths of feeling that that person's their life, they feel, guess what? I got nothing else if this person leaves me and lets me go. And that's why it gets crazy. And that's why I said you got to be careful where it starts. And when you see other people going through that, even young people, you got to be mindful of it. Because some people don't realize that power that they're holding, they're very good. They got money, right? They can influence that. They got looks, they got money, they got popularity, and then they got you hanging behind them, right? So you're on the buy-in. So you get isolated. It's almost like the spider to the fly. Do you understand? They already got they're getting their needs met. So they're doing it using everything that they can. And hopefully you're strong enough to see through it. Because a lot of people go through it, they get caught up. They get the diamonds in their eyes, right? They start to see things that they like. So they get attracted to it. So they end up being isolated. And then psychologically, it gets deep for someone. Now, that isn't a great percentage, but it's a percentage no matter how you look at it of the population. And it happens more than people know. And when you decide that that person, right, has taken over, you're embarrassed. You ain't gonna tell anybody. You realize, and you know what? You start to realize and have some self doubt. Meanwhile, that person was manipulating all along. You ain't supposed to be feeling that way, but you're feeling like you did something wrong when you didn't do nothing wrong. You're just being an open person. But some people come along. That's what we're talking about, bullying and friendships. When people actually isolate you, right? These are things we need to understand. Well, it gets deep, and I want to say to all my listeners, it's a great conversation. You know, I'm going to rhyme on this a little bit more, but for now, I want to say be like the wise old bird and spread the word. This bullying is a big issue, and we need to stand up. We need to put some things in place, and we need to assert ourselves a little bit carefully. I didn't talk about the other resources we need to get to, but that will be next time. So take care of yourself, people.